And until next time, guys, I'm Josh.
And I'm Brogan.
And, what's our... Do we have a catchphrase?
See ya, Space Cowboy.
That's it. There we go. All right, see you guys.
It's a good episode.
Yeah, I think we did a good job, you know. Good work. I'm looking forward to more JoJo's, to be honest, you know.
JoJo's is fun. I like JoJo's. I'm glad you're enjoying JoJo's.
Yeah. Man. All right.
Anyways, I got to get off like now.
Oh yeah. I got to
I'll talk to you later.
All right, see you later, dude.
Wait. You're still here?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to close out.
It's not letting me leave the call.
Yeah, like
the button is literally grayed
out.
Yeah,
the stop recording button that's normally red, you would presume, it's gray. It's gray. I don't know what's up. Hang on.
Try an Alt F4. Hold on. Okay, well, Alt F4 doesn't work.
Shit. Hang on. Let me look this up, see if there's something about this.
I can't even power cycle my computer.
Okay, Descript. How to end podcast. All right, let me scroll down a bit. Podcast length minimum. You must complete at least 100 hours of this podcast, of your first podcast, in order to exit the program.
What?
You must also do a Squarespace ad read.
No, wait, huh?
Yeah, it says we gotta do a Squarespace ad read. Yeah, that's weird. Hang on, let me see.
Wait, do we?
Any attempt to destroy your computer will result in your immediate demise, per the end user license agreement.
I didn't sign that shit.
I mean, I clicked the little checkmark box when we signed in, but that can't be legal, can it?
Josh, why is this podcast so cursed?
Oh my god. That can't be true. That can't be true. This is all bullshit, right? Something's going on. All right. Hang on. Let me try to unplug my computer just real quick.
Josh? I think his computer fucking exploded. Squarespace will let you make a website. You ever want to make a website? Make one with Squarespace. Was that good? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. That's the bit. That's the bit. That's good. All right. Man. Just making more work for myself here. I gotta make myself explode again.
Blow up 2 episodes in a row. Anyways, we're talking about Sword Art Online.
Yep. Welcome to How to Otaku. I'm Josh.
Well, I'm Brogan.
Yep,
and welcome to hell, actually, because
it's Sword Art Online time.
I don't want to give the goose away, you know, but like, I hate this show.
This show is not good. It's not good.
I hate this show.
Oh my god. And just a little bit of meta for you guys. We actually recorded a version of this episode a month ago about, like, I don't remember the exact date, but it was about a month ago, and we had an audio issue with it, and we haven't been able to re-record it until now. So it's like a fever dream. It's like a distant fever dream at this point. Yeah.
And I refuse to have watched it again because it's Sword Art Online.
Yeah, exactly. I thought about revisiting a few episodes because I was like, man, do I need to, like, refresh myself on this to make sure I remember it? And I couldn't even will myself to, like, pull it up and be like,
oh, absolutely not.
So
I could play Destiny 2. Why would I watch Sword Art Online? Destiny 2 is going crazy right now, actually. And by Destiny 2 is going crazy, I mean I'm going insane playing Destiny 2.
Yeah,
but that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah, that's a discussion for another time. Today we have to talk about
the boy.
The novel, I mean the webcomic turned light novel turned anime, Sword Art Online. So Sword Art Online is a novel series written by Reki Kawahara. And so I don't know if you know this, but it was actually published on the web first.
Light novel series, yeah.
Yeah, because it was too long for the competition that he was submitting it for. So he just decided to put it on the internet. And then when another one of his series got really popular, it got published, like, you know, like after
not posthumously, because he's
not
still
posthumously,
alive,
but like it got a delayed publishing, I suppose, as a light novel. But
wow, that's the most interesting thing about Sword Art Online.
okay, we gotta stop beating around the bush. So what is Sword Art Online? Sword Art Online is it's a show. It's a show where a boy plays a video game and he gets stuck inside the video game. Yeah.
He has to beat 100 floors of this MMO to get out of the video game with everybody else.
Yeah, to be clear, everybody's got to do that.
Everybody.
Like, so first let's talk about...
There's this MMO, right?
Yeah, the MMO is called Sword Art Online, right? That's the name of the video game that they are in. And let's just start at the video game, because...
We can talk about the video game, because, you know, you might think, anime about video game. Oh, they hate the anime. Well, maybe the video game part is at least kind of interesting.
No.
And if you have spent any amount of time in, like, World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV or insert MMO here, like, anyone that's good anyways, right? You will instantly see every single way that Reki Kawahara has never comprehended an MMO in his life.
Yeah, I actually looked into this. So he says that one of his main inspirations for the game was an old RPG called Wizardry. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
I'm familiar with Wizardry. Yeah, I've played Wizardry.
Yeah, but those are not MMOs.
Those are not MMOs.
Those are
not until very long into Wizardry. And
yeah,
even Wizardry I don't think has like an MMO. There's like Ultima.
Yeah.
And then Ultima got Ultima Online.
Yeah.
So, like,
it's so I do want to give this show a little bit of credit, because it's coming on the kind of front end of the MMO like scene, right? Because like,
I mean, it was written in 2002, so like that's pretty early on in the lifespan of like MMOs in general.
Yeah, you were getting like
to kind of be like, oh, a VR MMO.
Yeah,
like that's pretty forward thinking for a guy sitting in a little apartment in Kyoto or wherever he lives.
Yeah,
in 2002.
Yeah, like that. My main thesis about this show is that it's a show created by a guy who like has ideas, but is not a writer. That's kind of my thesis of this, because like he seems to know some stuff about video games, right? And like
he's like Doug Walker.
Yeah, like he knows kind of the stuff about it, but like he doesn't understand game design. He doesn't understand how games are made. He doesn't understand like anything that makes them interesting apart from the fact that people play them online with each other, you know? And that's the thing, right? Is like the show could be really interesting, you know? Because like, you know, if you want to create like, if you want to do an isekai or something and you don't want to do like a fantasy isekai, this is an interesting kind of gateway into that kind of concept, right?
Right, but like immediately one of the more interesting concepts about a story held within a video game, you see this a lot with games and shows and movies and whatnot, where like the story is in the game, but then like it's a video game. These people have lives and they interact in person or with the real world in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I personally, I've not watched Log Horizon, but I hear that is like exemplary. It's from around the same time, and it's literally everything Sword Art Online has ever wanted to be. It is, I'm not gonna say it's the best show ever, but it is ostensibly good sword art. You know?
Like it. First of all, the game has no appeal whatsoever, right?
No,
like
I mean,
it.
Well,
so first of all, it's made by one guy. It's made by one fucking guy, and a VR MMORPG is created by a solo developer.
A full dive VR MMO.
Yeah.
Which means that you're not just putting on a headset and picking up two controllers and then you stand in your room and you swing your arms around. it is implanting itself into your brain. He developed this technology by himself. It is implanted into your brain and tapping into your spinal column so that it can read your nerve inputs. It's called the nerve gear. It can read your nerve inputs so that the motions that you want to do in the game, like, they're intercepted by the device.
Yeah.
So, like, your body isn't moving.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You can control the game.
You can control the game, but, like, I suppose if that's novel enough in this world, then that can be appealing onto its own. Like, oh, wow, I'm in a virtual reality space where, like, literally I can, like, feel everything that's going on around me, right?
Which, I mean,
that's cool.
You know, I'm sitting here right now. That is cool, right?
Yeah, but, like...
I would fall for that. I would go for that. MMO in full dive VR?
Yeah.
Yo.
But then...
How much did this cost?
What, the gear?
Just for a consumer. Like, how much money does Kirito have sitting around that he can buy full dive VR?
I don't know if they ever get into that, to be honest.
I don't think they do.
But
because Reki Kawahara doesn't know the answer. Because Reki Kawahara is a bad writer.
But, like, the world is just so bland and cookie cutter in a way. Like, I never get a sense of, like, what the actual intent of the world would be if it was just a video game.
Aincrad. It's called Aincrad, and the intent of the world is that there's 100 floors, and there's no NPCs other than enemies and bosses.
No, that's not true. Not true.
Oh,
because
are there NPCs?
Because there's...
I was under the impression that people took up, like, jobs and, like, started just, like...
No. So, this is another thing. This is another dumbass thing in this show. They bring up that there are NPCs in the world, and the two protagonists, Kirito and Asuna, they have a brief, minuscule discussion about the possibility that they are sentient. Do you remember this? I
don't remember this.
It's when they're in that boardroom meeting or whatever, when they, like, meet up at, like, the second time.
Oh, yeah. Right, because they mentioned that they're gonna use them to, like, lead a dungeon boss into a town or some shit, right?
Yeah, and he's like, no way, dude. These are, like, real people. We have to respect them. And she's like, no, they're not. They're just programs in a computer. This is never brought up again. Never
brought up again. And she's right, by the way, because people have done this in World of Warcraft. I'm like, who the fuck is sitting here thinking, wow, what if these NPCs in World of Warcraft are, like, thinking real people? It's like, oh, what if? But, like, they never bring it up again. So I forgot that it happened.
Oh, man.
He has ideas.
Again, that's what I'm saying.
He just has no idea how to tie them together coherently.
Exactly. He's just a guy who's like, oh, what if, you know, if you created a VR MMO and everybody got stuck in it, they kind of start getting, connected to the NPCs. But then he never has the wherewithal to be like, okay, what's the best way to express that?
Do they ever actually interact with an NPC?
No.
I don't think they do.
That's how you would implement that kind of idea into a narrative, is have somebody who has a best friend who is an NPC, or even a lover who is an NPC, and they have to, like, struggle with whether or not that's a real relationship or not, you know? That's how you do it. That's how, like...
And that would be interesting. However, we are in the world of Reki Kawahara, so no thought is explored beyond,
yeah,
that'd be cool.
Or how it can just get, like, hammered into a cookie cutter, like, narrative about, some lone wolf kid who just wants to, be the coolest and the most badass, but then he finds a girl, and the girl is so cool, and they love each other.
But he can't pick. He can't decide. He refuses to, because there are, like, 5 episodes where they have a kid together, and then that just, like, goes away.
Yeah, that's... Oh my god, that plot line's so fucking bizarre. Oh my god.
And he gives up. I feel like halfway through he gave up on Aincrad as an arc. I feel like he gave up earlier, because, like, fairly immediately you start hitting, like, the weirdest time skips. Like, oh, we're just gonna time skip past the part where, and this is how you know Reki Kawahara has never played an MMO in his life and doesn't care about them. Where do we get the part where, and I guess you could say they gloss over this by saying that Kirito's a beater.
Put a pin in that. But, like,
Where's the part where Kirito goes off into a forest by like when do he says it? We don't get to see Kirito put in any effort to gain the skill that he has, and so he just does something, and you're like,
yeah,
he can do that. And this comes to a very specific point later, but like. They introduce it really early on with this scene where he takes this girl into the forest and he's like, we can revive your fucking pet dragon. Yeah. And actually, sorry, you were bait. I wanted to see if I could pull out these PvP players, which like the PvP player system doesn't even
pin in that.
And he stands there and there's like 7 dudes attacking him at once. And these are ostensibly really high level players because they are engaging in active PvP
all the time,
killing people all the time. And they're just going ham on him and he's just standing there. And he's like, my health regenerates faster than you can damage me because I grinded so hard. And it's like, when did that happen?
When did that happen?
I didn't see that. I just have to assume there was a time skip where that happened somewhere.
And that never becomes an element in the rest of the plot.
Nope.
Never.
No, there is never another encounter where, oh, he's just busted. He overheals everything. It is literally only important for that. Because, like, 3 episodes later, he gets fucked up by some... he gets
random general or something.
Some dude, right. But the random general turns out to be the guy that built the game.
Yeah.
He was just around hanging out with everybody the whole time.
Yeah, but, oh my god. So, let's go into the beater thing. First of all. Let's talk
about beaters. Josh, do you consider yourself a beater?
No, I did consider getting the Hades early access, but then I was like, oh my god. When this game comes out and everybody starts playing it, everybody's going to fucking hate me because I played it first.
Everybody's gonna hate
and I got so fucking good at the game before everybody else did. Even though not all the content's in it yet.
Run around in one field, fight one boss, and explore the opening town.
So they say this. So they're like, we only got to like level 8 in the beta. That's as far as we got before like the full public release happened, and for some reason like that is a sticking point for people.
Well, here's the thing: the people who got to level 8 are like 3 autistic dudes who bought into this shit harder than anybody else, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna figure this out, and we're gonna do as much as we can." 92% of the other 500 people that played the beta for this thing never got half that far.
Yeah.
Because that's how video games work. I'm explaining this to you because this is like the experience of an MMO player.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. Just from a mechanical, from a time, from a gameplay understanding standpoint, that's just not how that works. Every single person who played the beta did not get to floor 8.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if they mean floor 8 because the thing is a pancake stack,
or
if they mean
level
8 as in the characters were level 8. Which,
but either way,
not much progress on a 100 floor tower.
Exactly. Then it becomes like the video game's version of racism.
Right, for about 15 minutes of one episode.
No, it comes up a second time.
They bring it up, right, they bring it up interstitially throughout for like the first half of what we've watched, the Aincrad arc.
Yeah.
Like the first 15 episodes.
But it's so strange, dude. It really does strike me as like, well, how do I create the video game version of racism?
How do I make my protagonist experience tension? And he's like, okay, well, we'll make people racist against him. How do I make people racist against him? He played the beta.
Yeah.
But they shoot that in the foot the second they bring it up because he says that the beta testers all wrote guides on how to do everything that they had done.
Yeah.
But then they also show that the game has been changed since the beta test. So, like...
None of that information is useful anymore.
None of the information was useful in the first place.
And like
the information that is about the game mechanics generally would be useful.
Yeah.
And everybody has it. It is given to people when they are in the first town. Like they say that. And you can assume, oh, well, 90% of people won't get to floor 8 in the beta test. 90% of people won't read the fucking tutorial. That's true.
Yeah. But
But like as soon as it's common knowledge that the information does exist, you have a very, very weak reason for us to care about anybody calling Kirito a beater.
Yeah,
you know?
like what does it matter, right? Like, oh my god, this fucking show. Oh my god. Okay, so we got done with the beater thing. Let's talk about our main guy here, Kirito.
Yeah.
He's
what about
just a guy.
He's
just a guy.
Literally. He's a blank wooden board of a protagonist.
Yeah.
He is edgy. He is lone wolf.
Yep.
He so wishes that he was Guts from Berserk, but he's too much of a twink. And again, he puts in no work that we see to do any of the shit that he does, and he is just gifted. He's just touched by the hand of God at this video game. Literally, he gets an ability that is not coded into the game. Which, like...
Bruh. It's so funny to me that, like...
There's such thing as tech, right?
Yeah.
You can do tech where it's like, okay, well, maybe they didn't mean for this ability to combo into this ability, and it works really well together. Brother can dual wield.
Yeah.
Nobody
else can do it.
And it's like, okay, but here's the thing. Obviously, every character has 2 hand slots, or else people wouldn't be able to equip swords and shields.
Yeah.
Like, just from a programming standpoint. Let's think about this for a second.
Yeah.
If you've got 2 hand slots, it's a VR game. How the fuck can you prevent somebody from picking up 2 swords? How is this not something that everyone can do just from a technical gameplay standpoint? And if you say, oh, well, he programmed it in so that you can't do that, then it's like, okay, then how can he do that? You have to explain how he can do that if it breaks the rules of the world we are in.
The MO of this show seems to be establish a rule, have Kirito break it, never explain it. It is so strange.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a baffling show to me. It's and again, what makes it kind of stick in my head, like if it was just a poorly written show, that'd be one thing, but it's a show that has interesting ideas and just completely bungles all of them.
That's what's so fucking frustrating.
I can't think of a single interesting idea that it like sees through into an interesting way. Not one.
Zero. The most interesting episode to me is in theory is the 2 episodes about like the murder in a safe zone. Like that just hooks me. That concept, I'm like, okay, how do you pull off a murder in a safe zone? And he ghosts.
But
it's like
this is a video game with no magic, but there are ghosts.
Oh, I forgot about that. This is a video game with no magic. But there's healing potions, and there are stat buffs, and there are, like, abilities where you can, like, charge sun energy into your weapon. And it's like, I don't know, man.
It's not magic.
You can come up with a lot of different words for those. But if I called it magic, you wouldn't tell me I was wrong. But to say there is no magic and then introduce these things is like... So you're lying, then. We're just lying.
We gotta go back to Kirito because...
And fucking teleportation crystals.
I've been thinking about this for a bit. I've been thinking about it. So... The lone wolf protagonist is like, it's a common trope in movies and stuff, right? Like you have like the cowboys and the samurais and shit that are like, you know, I don't want to help anybody. I'm just here to look out for myself. And then they somehow find their way into helping people either through the goodness of their heart or because it's convenient to them, right? Like,
right, and that is the strongest part of every single one of those stories is seeing the fucking Mad Max,
yeah,
fucking Berserk,
spaghetti western, you know, like all the old samurai movies.
Jotaro Kujo.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Spike Spiegel not so much because he's like, you know, he's paired up with Jet from the beginning, but he also has like a.
Yeah.
We mention Cowboy Bebop sometimes, but he has like a resentment towards some of the other people around him until they grow on him.
Exactly.
But like, and that's what people enjoy is seeing that character development.
Yeah.
And Kirito is not a character, and there is no development that happens.
Exactly. Like the show simultaneously. So like what I was getting at is the two paths that this kind of character can go down ultimately is either they get the goodness in their heart where they help people in a selfless way, or they're not. I mean, they're selfish and they do shit just for themselves. But they're so interesting and their motivations are so compelling that you stick with them anyways. This show does neither. The show tries to split it down the middle, and it's like, well, he's actually helping this girl because he wants to take down these PvP players or whatever. But you're also supposed to really care about him. You know, he's actually a really nice guy. You know, even though
he's helping this girl fight this dragon by himself on a snowy mountain. But actually, he just wants a new sword.
Yeah, he's such a fucking wet blanket of a character, man. And like, for a show that has an interesting concept, it is so strange to me that they go this way about it.
I couldn't tell you a single thing about Kirito other than things he did in the show.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know anything about this man's personality at all. I couldn't tell you a single thing because he is written to be like he just kind of like does the correct thing in like not even like in a moral sense. He just does what works out
exactly
in any given scenario. And when you don't think that there is anything that he can do in a given scenario, Reiki Kawahara just says, "Oh, he does it anyways, though."
Okay, so this kind of gets into like the time skipping thing because like the show has like from the beginning, I would say like every single episode pretty much, like with the exception of like one or two episode arcs that like, you know, follow a continuous, you know, narrative or whatever. But like between all of those episodes and those arcs are like big time skips, like months. You know, so like they're spending years into this video game.
Literally.
And that can be interesting, right? If you write it really well to the point where like you're getting the important pivotal parts of people's character development in these moments, you know, where like, you know, you see like Kirito, maybe he's like super fresh into the game and like is actually kind of cool with people, but then in this episode he has a group of people and they all get killed, and then he's like, oh no, I'm in a game where literally everybody around me is dying, and so I can't be around people, and that's why I'm a lone wolf. That's a pivotal moment. That's the interesting part of the show, that you can kind of like thread that time skipping through. But the show doesn't do that, because even when they do that episode where he's grouped up with people and then they all die, he's already a lone wolf character anyway. He starts as a lone wolf.
He's already
just joins these guys
in the starting town.
He joins these guys
out of pure convenience and just for shits and giggles, because he's like, I'm really strong. I want to see these guys do something.
And then they all die around him, and then he's like, well, I guess it's just back to being by myself again. Whatever. You know, like that's the show. The show is them like putting these little seeds into your fucking mind that are like, this is what the show could be, and then like just ripping the seed out and being like, you want this, you want this, you want this show, fuck you.
he paints a beautiful line, right? Reiki Kawahara does. He paints a beautiful line. He sprints right up to it. And then he turns around and takes a shit. he turns around, he drops his pants, and he shits on the line he just drew. And you're like, Reggie, you saw the line. It was a beautiful line. You just shat all over it.
Yeah, and then
I don't know.
And then after he's done taking a shit, he pulls up his pants and then he starts drawing little anime waifus or whatever. Let's talk about the female characters of this show. Oh my god.
Again, characters is a very strong word to use for anybody that shows up in this show.
But like, so apart from Kirito, the secondary protagonist, the deuteragonist, I suppose, is Asuna. She shows up in episode 2. And she's, like, similarly kind of like a solo player or whatever, but they kind of, like, they team up for this one thing, and they, like, they do the super combo on the first boss, and that's what wins the day.
Right, which, tag fighting in an MMO?
Cool.
Really interesting idea.
Cool
Goes
idea.
nowhere.
Like, and then you don't see her for another 2 or 3 episodes, and then you see her as, like, a general or whatever. And, like, okay, cool. Like, She was in a position where she's kind of, like, lower than Kirito at the start. She's, like, learning from her or whatever. And then by the time they meet up again, she's in a position of power. That's interesting. What are you going to do with that?
Well, and again, that means nothing to us because there have been several times already by that point where Kirito has just flat out lied to everyone around him, including the audience, about how strong he is and what he has done or not. Because, like, every once in a while we'll get an internal monologue that says, I've actually cleared 13 more floors than anybody else by myself. And so you sit and you see something and you're like, oh, well, she's a general, but Kirito is still just, like, the hand of God at work.
Yeah.
Like... what?
Man,
what's a king to a god?
Exactly. And then they have like a little mini arc where they help some guys out in like in a dungeon or something. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened there, but their relationship turns into like a kind of like meet cute thing, and then they immediately decide we're getting married. Like, yep. Immediately. What's the fucking point of that?
And the first 2 times they interact, there is no hint whatsoever that these two have any
there's no chemistry,
attraction to one another, or no chemistry whatsoever. It is literally just like, oh, he showed her a thing or two about the video game, and then she was like, okay, I'm gonna play the video game.
Yeah.
And then she got kind of good at the video game, and now love arc.
Yeah, like. It's so perfunctory, man. It's just like, it's literally like, oh, what does every light novel need? It needs a love story. So I'm just gonna put one in right here.
Romance
and the other thing about that is that, like, so if you want them to get married in the video game, cool, fine. Even if you don't want to like go through all the effort of like showing their relationship, cool, fine. You've created this structure where you're like skipping time a bunch of times. So literally all you have to do is just put them like starting a relationship in this episode, skip a bunch of time. Now they're in a deeply committed relationship where they're perfectly comfortable getting married. That's fine. That makes sense. They don't do that.
You could do that. You could do that. And again, I don't even necessarily have a problem with time skips because I'm going to say it again. Cowboy fucking Bebop.
It doesn't.
Every single episode is a time skip.
Exactly, but you don't feel like the time skips are where the important things are happening, and the episodes you're seeing are the dumb shit. It feels like you're seeing the important pivotal points in their life, right. And everything else is just the boring mundanity.
And it does have like a solid through line. Like everything connects and makes sense. Whereas in Sword Art Online, the only hint of progression or development that you're getting at all is every few episodes they'll say what floor they're on, and it's a higher number now.
Exactly. It's... Oh my god, dude, this show, it breaks my brain. It breaks my brain. Ugh. And the thing is that for all the shit we are talking about this show, none of it is the fault of anybody but the writers. None of it. Absolutely none of it.
Right, because this show... the show is competently presented. I mean, it looks decent.
Yeah.
Especially for, what, 2010 when it came out? 2009 maybe?
Yeah, 2012.
Oh, sure. So, like, I mean, it looks as good as any other show from back then. I don't see any obvious animation flaws. There are some pretty decent special effects in, like, the fight scenes and whatnot. But genuinely, every single problem I have with this is the characters, the story, just anything to do with writing. Yeah. And, like, I could see a world where this is just like an adaptation gone wrong, and I've never gone out of my way to read the original light novel manuscript. But, like, if this is the shit they chose to adapt, and, like, I can only believe that they adapted it truthfully and correctly because I've never heard otherwise.
Yeah.
Then if they left anything out, I couldn't imagine what trash that was.
It's yeah, I don't know whether or not this is like a terribly faithful adaptation. My understanding is that it is, because usually, like, these shows that are, or these manga that already have fan bases going in, you know, they want to be very respectful of the story or whatever, you know? And there's, like, no reason not to be, because anime and manga translate pretty well, you know? So, like, there's no reason to cut much.
The only time you get that is when, like, an anime starts production very shortly after the beginning of the manga.
Yeah.
So, like, this kind of happened with Full Metal Alchemist. It got picked up to be an anime very quickly.
Yeah.
And they kind of had to, like, write an ending for it
before the manga
it was finished, right?
Yeah.
So that's what happened to the original Full Metal Alchemist.
And then there
Brotherhood is, like, the remake, the, like, closer adaptation. It's still not 1-to-1, but it's closer, and they're both very good.
Yeah, and then there's other edge cases like Akira, which is like was like made within the while the manga was being written, but, like, it has so much of the mangaka's, like, personal vision put into it that it works, because it's being consistent with the spirit of the manga, even if it doesn't, like, completely adapt everything correctly.
Josh,
what's up?
You're the t-shirt you're wearing. It happened to the t-shirt you're wearing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same shit that happened with Scott Pilgrim. They started production on this movie, like, halfway through the comic run.
Yeah.
And, you know, Brian O'Malley, right?
Yeah, Brian O'Malley. He was like, so I haven't written the ending yet.
He was involved with Edgar Wright to, like,
but here's,
I think there was, like, a thing where they presented some combination of, they, like, presented a couple different endings, and they were like, this is the one we want to go with.
Exactly.
But, like, this happens sometimes where, like, but edge case shit. Generally, if something came out, like what's happening with JoJo's, if something comes out, develops a fan base, gets an adaptation years later, they generally try to stay fairly faithful to the source material.
Yeah, and my instinct is that if the show throughout this whole entire arc is so lousily written, then my assumption is that it's an overall writing problem rather than, like, a specific episode to episode failing, right? And that comes down to whoever the lead writer of the show is. And I don't know who the lead writer of the show specifically was, but so it's either their fault or the fault of the source material. And I'm inclined to believe the source material, because this was the first thing this guy ever wrote. And usually the first thing somebody writes is not that good, especially if it's self-published and nobody's there to be like, okay, so I read this, good ideas, but you need to fix this before we publish.
Right. What happened to the thing? What happened to the boss that the main character can solo to get a revive item? When he's, like, level 10, he gets stronger. Can he not go back and just, like, I mean, they're there for years.
Yeah.
You can just do it every Christmas and go back and fight the boss and get 1,000,000 revive items, and just, like, death is never a problem anymore. But
yeah, the show is whack. I think it's the worst television show I've ever watched more than 3 episodes of, which is, like, you know, again, this show has a lot of ideas, and it's competently produced outside of the writing. So, like, that's not too bad, but...
It's definitely not the worst show I've seen. I'm trying to think if it's, like... It's up there. It's up there. But, like, I feel like everything else that's, like, this tier garbage that I've seen and stuck through is because it was funny or, like, interesting as a trash fire. Whereas, like, the only reason I was able to get as far into this show as I was, which is only 15 episodes, I couldn't do it the second time to re-record this. And I certainly can't go any further because it only gets worse. Like,
at some point, it becomes a first-person shooter as well. Like, I think the third...
Gun Gale.
Yeah. Why? What is there to explore about a first-person shooter?
Well, it's a first-person shooter MMO, Josh.
Oh! Whoa! So it's...
And it's in VR.
Whoa!
And
Tarkov MMO! Holy shit!
And he's gonna date his stepsister or something. I don't know. Honest to God, we got to talk about the ending, but
we do.
I don't know.
We do. We gotta get to it quickly. Actually, we're kind of running low on time. But the show ends. They get to what's supposed to be the final boss. They get there, and then they beat like the...
No, not even. They get to like floor... I don't
No, they get to...
is,
let me correct myself. It's floor 99, and then it's like, okay, in order to get to floor 100, there's going to be like 25 bosses or something, and you got to beat them all, boss rush, whatever. They beat the first boss, half their dudes are dead, and they're like, okay, do we keep going with this or not? And then on a whim, without any evidence whatsoever, Kirito's like, this general guy who, like, I dueled earlier and I couldn't even get a scratch on him, something's up with this guy. So I'm literally just going to, like, backstab him or whatever,
Right. On his own pride, I guess. He's just like, I'm too good at this game. There's no way I didn't beat him. So he just swings on him, and it's like, oh, it is.
Yep.
It's the guy who made the game.
The guy who made the game.
Playing the game.
Is the main general.
And he says... Kirito, you are so good at my game that the only way that you didn't beat me in the first place is because I cheated.
But I'm going to turn my cheating ability off. We're going to reduel, and if you win, the game is over.
Trust me, bro. I'm going to turn it off for sure.
Definitely. And then so they duel. Kirito starts getting his ass handed to him, and then right before he gets killed, Asuna jumps in the way. Love, sacrifice of love or whatever. She gets stabbed.
Nobody really cares.
She disintegrates.
Kirito just goes catatonic.
Yeah, and like he starts like swinging his sword around. He's like, yeah, and then the dude's like, all right, well, fuck you, goodbye. He stabs him, and then Kirito's like, you fell right for my trap. Stabs him, and then they both die. The game ends. Everybody else gets to leave, and now Kirito, Asuna, and the guy who made the game are in like this like heavenly platform above the entire video game. Again,
the end of Evangelion.
Let me reiterate. So the point, the premise of the show, in case you didn't catch, is that if you die in the game, you die in real life. There's an exception for these three fellas. Said that.
I think we made it 46 minutes. I think that's a world record. We made it 46 minutes into the podcast about Sword Art Online, and I don't think either one of us until just now said if you die in the game, you die in real life. Which like goes to show. I feel like it's pretty widely known. Like, you're aware of this show. That's what you know about it, if nothing else.
But we got so fucking sidetracked with all this dumb shit that happens in the show. We didn't even explain like the principal core concept of the show that you need to know going in. But anyway, they get an exception for some reason because they're the protagonists. So they're up there, they're like...
Literally for some reason.
They're up there, they're watching the whole world, like, dramatically collapse or whatever, and then they... the dude starts talking, and he's like, I don't even remember why I made this fucking game, dude. That was, like, years ago. Well, I don't know, man. And I'm like...
We did
that's
it all for nothing.
your job as a writer is to write things that have a point. That's what writing is.
Well, you know, it could be argued Reki Kawahara, he wrote this with a very direct point to make little white boys mad on the internet. He could have done it for that reason, and if that's the whole thing, then like, good on you, man. You baited a 40-minute podcast out of us. But beyond that, like,
what?
Literally pointless. Literally pointless.
Yeah, just like,
I mean,
why are we
here? We should
here?
have seen it coming from the beginning, because like every single thing that he sets up, do you know what the answer to it is?
I don't know.
It was pointless. There was nothing.
Yeah.
So the ending being pointless and nothing just falls right in line.
It falls right.
It's no surprise. Of course it was pointless. The whole thing was pointless. Every single thing he set up from start to finish was pointless. He gives him the ability to dual wield, and like, he doesn't even use it to kill the final boss. Like, the most basic, simple things that you could employ as writing techniques, he just flat out does not do.
Let me catch on to that. That proves that the writing of this show is his fault. You want to know why? Because he was publishing it serialized, which means that the problems of the show, of them like not connecting dots in between each other, are his fault. You know, like, the fan fiction has the same problem where like a lot of it is serialized, and so like, you know, as the show is being published, they're getting feedback, and like, time is progressing, and they're not editing the old parts of it, the old parts of the story, but they're writing new parts onto it, and so plot lines that are not popular or that the writer isn't interested in just get dropped. That's what's happening here. That's how you know that the show and its writing problems are Reki Kawahara's fault, because it all leads to nowhere. Not that I read fan fiction.
Yeah,
I just watch a lot of YouTube videos about.
I was gonna let it slide, but if you want to talk about what fan fictions you've been reading, any of that Luffy Zoro shit, or like, what's up?
Luffy Zoro, Jesus God,
Yeah.
Man, what that stretchy dick do, man? Oh my God. You know.
Hey, yo.
You know. Anyways, dude's like, I don't know why I made the game. You know, Kirito and Asuna are like, we're gonna find each other in the real world if we survive. They survive. Kirito's like in a hospital bed, I guess. You know, because you can't live like 3 years in a video game without eating. So he's just like,
what a bitch.
Which, like,
personally, you know, I'm built different.
Which, like, I don't remember if they specifically addressed that in the show, but I don't remember them doing so. So, like, the whole time I was watching the show, I was like, where are they? How are they eating? What is going on? But, anyways, so he wakes up and he's like, he, like, struggles out of the bed. He, you know, starts walking off into, like, the sunlight outside the hospital, you know, and he's like, I'm gonna find you, Asuna, and that's it. That's the show.
I'll say, I think at some point they address, like, oh yeah, most of you will be taken by your families to, like, hospitals and, like, put on IVs to survive. But, like, I really don't know if that's true, or if the only reason I knew that is because I had seen this before. And, like, I'd seen the end of the episode where he woke up in a hospital bed with an IV, you know?
I feel like if he wanted to... Maybe this is just me being like, this is how I would have done it, but, like, you know, which is not a great way to criticize anything, you know, just, like, criticize it for what it's doing and what it fails to do rather than, you know, putting your own shit on it. But, like, if I were writing the show, I feel like a really core element of the show would be, like, being outside of the world and, like, exploring, you know, what people's reaction to this event is and, like, how they're trying to fix things.
Like, What is Kirito's mom doing when he puts on the fucking headset and literally no matter what she does, he won't come out? And then she starts seeing, she turns on the TV and every channel she flips to is news story after news story about how kids are stuck in this video game. You know, like
what a missed opportunity. Anyways, I think we've covered pretty much the the most basic steps of this show. You know, there's other stuff we could get into. You know, like. There's like the tribe cultures, you know, there's like the big army or whatever. None of it's interesting. None of it's particularly interesting, you know. There's a bunch of people who are evil, and then there's a couple armies who are like good, and maybe one of them's run by like a stupid guy or whatever, but like, you know, they're on the right side and some people are on the wrong. Whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. Don't watch this show.
Don't waste your time.
Don't
15
This is 14 episodes
at 14 episodes at what?
At like 20 minutes?
25 minutes a piece or so?
That's just under 5 hours. Just under 5 hours.
Play Destiny 2. Play Destiny 2. Go play
Animal Well.
Go play Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
So I now finally have an example of a worse depiction of like Second Life VR than Ready Player One. I now have a new number one. So Ernest Cline, I guess you can say you're better than Reki Kawahara.
Remember, just one last thing because we are limited on time for right now.
Yeah.
You create this game where everybody has this elaborate character creation system where you can meticulously define every detail of your character down to every foreskin follicle, right? And 3 minutes into the first episode, they just take away, and literally for a joke, I guess. For one joke where it's like, oh, this couple, they got together, they're both 40-year-old dudes. Isn't that funny?
Oh my God. We didn't get into that.
Complete and utter failings on every single level. The only saving grace for this show is the fact that the anime adaptation was completed competently.
They got through it. They got it done. The story
itself, they got through it. Congratulations to them. They managed to stay sane throughout the process of developing this shit into a TV show. I never have to talk or think about this shit ever again.
Let's not. Let's pray to the gods that this episode stays together so that we never have to talk about this ever again.
Oh, don't fucking jinx it. We're going to have to record it for a third time.
So, if you watch the show for the purposes of this podcast, I'm just going to say right now, I'm sorry. I'm deeply sorry. You know,
I'm not. I had to suffer. I'm glad someone did too.
And speaking of which, if you did watch this show, and if you did suffer like us, feel free to tell us in the Q&A box on Spotify, or DM us on our socials, or send us an email being like,
least favorite part.
Yeah, tell us what your least favorite part is. If you like the show, explain why. Please just like engage with us, man.
Yeah, if you like this show, please tell me why. Please provide any example as to why Sword Art Online.
It would actually be very cool to hear from you guys.
If you think it's bad, if there's anything we missed, please. I want to hear all the Reki Kawahara slander possible.
Yeah, hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok now at How to Otaku Pod. Simple, easy, clean. We got the handle on all 4 platforms. Fuck yeah. And we have
That's hard to do nowadays.
And we have a website now, actually. Link is in the description.
That was Josh bumping his microphone.
Yeah, but link in the description. I'm trying to run through this really quick so that we make it in time. But yeah, you know, just engage with us. We have a Discord as well. That's in the description. What else? Do you have anything to plug? No? Not really? All right.
Log Horizon.
All right. So that's going to do it for us today. Next episode is going to be JoJo's Battle Tendency.
JoJo's Part 2. Yes.
That is on July 8th, and then July 22nd we are doing season 1 of Delicious in Dungeon, which is
Dungeon Meshi.
Both of those are on Netflix. You can catch them all right there. So,
Simple.
easy, simple, clean. That's how we like it. All right.
Kingdom Hearts reference?
Was that? I don't play that game.
Simple and clean? Damn.
All right.
3 people will get that reference and we love them. Anyways.
Yep, that's been it.
He's been Josh. I've been Brogan.
Yep, and we'll see you next time.
See you, Space Cowboy.